Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for joining our incredible Ohrsom Student 2021 Gap Year Information Night. Just if I can get a little thumbs up from someone that they can hear me okay. Can you hear me? Super. My name is Evan Woodmont. So I'm the Director of Ohrsom Student in Australia. Just a little bit of a rundown of what we're going to be doing tonight. I'm going to speak first and just introduce you to Ohrsom Student in Australia and Ohrsom Student in, as a global organization and what we've achieved over the number of years that we've been around for. That's step number one. Step number two, I'm going to hand you over to Rabbi Jared Bloch, who is the founder of Ohrsom Student together with Rabbi Sosnovic in South Africa. They started Ohrsom Student, and we will go on. After that, Rabbi Bloch will be speaking, just giving introduction to the Gap Year program itself. And that will be followed by Morty Goldstein, who's the operational manager of the Gap Year program. And he will be just giving you an in-depth insight into all the different aspects of the program. That's the next speaker. And then lastly, we're going to have two of our amazing Australian representatives, Benji and Gabi, that are one based in Melbourne, one in Sydney. So Benji and Gabi, you might know them, just they're the ones who've organized tonight. So thank you very much to them for putting in so much effort to making tonight happen. But they're just going to introduce themselves, and they'll be the go-to in the next stages of everyone signing up, because I have no doubt that after we finish tonight, you'll all be running to the application forms and signing up, because it really is an incredible program. So it is, it's a little bit strange speaking in a way where you can't really get feedback from people directly, but I'll do my best. I am very excited to be here with you tonight. And I'm only going to speak for one to 2 minutes. So just as an introduction, Ohrsom Student was started in South Africa many years ago. It's a very dynamic and incredible program that it has a focus, initially focused on university-age students, which is what we did over here in Australia when we started about 4 years ago. Rabbi Bloch asked myself, together with Rabbi Hanan and my wife, we started an amazing opportunity for uni-age students to engage in Judaism in a way that they haven't experienced before, which is fun, vibrant, relevant, and what my favorite word is balance. So I think a lot of us either focus on, some people focus very much on the spiritual side, some people focus very much on the physical side. So I think we're all about balance, trying to create programs in Israel that we run. A few of the, of the programs that we run, our flagship one is the mid-year Israel trip, which please God will be back soon, as soon as we're all out of our Zoom mode. But that's slowly built up in Australia over the last 4 or 5 years, from 10 students to 60 students to 80 students. We're about to take a trip, unfortunately it got cancelled, but of over 100 students to Israel. And that's really where I guess a lot of the magic that we do, where we awaken in students, number one, an excitement for Israel itself, an excitement for learning, Jewish learning, an excitement for, we create an incredibly well-oiled social dynamic that often when they come back to Australia, that's really the benefit that I think we offer in all the programs that we run, is not just the experience in Israel, but when you come back to Australia, what is there for you when you get back here? So we have a beautiful center in both Melbourne and Sydney, where we run constant programs, whether it be social Shabbat meals, learning one-on-ones. Currently, just to give you an idea, we almost on a weekly basis learning with over 100 students a week. A lot of that is one-on-one. A lot of that involves, mental health support, and a lot of we really become like we create a system where we create like a mentorship and a friendship with a lot of the students, and somewhere where they can express themselves, an open space to express their ideas, who they are, what they think. No one gets shut down for speaking their mind. On the contrary, encourage engagement in thinking and learning. On the screen, you can see that over there, if you're looking to the side, there's incredible leadership opportunities. We take our leaders to Spain, to Brazil, we really invest in everything we do, and especially the students that we engage with. And now I think the natural progression for us has been to create this opportunity where, this bridge between high school and, let's say, university, where there's this opportunity for what I think is by far the most incredible gap year program on offer. Not in just all the detail of what we do, but the price and everything else around it. And what I think is the bigger value add is not the actual trip, is what happens, exactly what's going to happen when they come back. There's something for them to plug into, engage, you know, and help them grow as people, as Jews, as people who have a strong yearning for Israel, a Zionistic yearning. I think we cater to all of that. Yeah, we are looking forward to, if again, and this is always how it works, if you have any questions that you feel were not answered tonight, or something that you'd like to speak to me about, I'm always approachable and more than happy to discuss anything with you. Over to you, Rabbi Jared Blach.
Thank you, Rabbi Evan. Thank you, everybody, for coming and joining us this afternoon in Johannesburg, where I'm at right now. It's a great privilege to be with all of you. And it's so exciting to be speaking in a forum which is purist Australian. As Rabbi Evan mentioned, we initially began this journey in South Africa, and with the amazing partnership and tremendous effort that came into the dream and effort of building Ohrsom in Australia, both Melbourne and Sydney, it's translated into a stage and phase where now it's its own entity. It's extremely dynamic and tremendously a part of the landscape of both Melbourne and Sydney. And we have Australians in all our programs, and they've added their tremendous energy and tremendous uniqueness to the whole program and to the whole organization. And it really is such a fulfilling moment to be speaking to all of you, with that being already a historical component of what we are, and looking forward to the future of what can be. And I'm here to speak to you this evening about the gap year. And the gap year really was a dream in the making of trying to, as Rabbi Evan mentioned, conceptualize an opportunity between university and between high school, where there's a gap. And the gap can be an opportunity for downtime, and it can be an opportunity to kind of let your hair down. But in Ohrsom classic tradition and ethos and theology, we wanted to fill that gap with its own spice and with its own meaning and with its own value, so much so that one would leave that year being that much bettered and that much more exposed to so many different elements that the year had to offer, so that one was better off experiencing that year rather than going straight to university. And that obviously is the ultimate principle behind a gap year. It should really give someone the opportunity to grow in aspects of oneself that wouldn't, under normal circumstances, be able to be achieved. Barack Obama actually wanted his daughter to go straight to Harvard, and he was told that she had to go on a gap year first. So it seems to be something on a cultural level and a strategic level that is so beneficial to a person's development, as long as it's enriching and as long as what one is experiencing in that gap year is something that really closes a gap as opposed to creates one. And in principle, that's what we envisaged, and that's what I believe we've achieved in terms of what we've created in this gap year. We've tried to break it down into various components, which I'd like to frame for you so that it can give you so much more of a vivid portrayal of what it is. I'd like to really, in principle, think of it as having three different elements. One educational, one experiential, and one which is primarily travel orientated. When one thinks about the educational component, obviously in classic education, one sits in front of a teacher, one engages. In this gap year experience, the education is very diverse and extremely dynamic, and hopefully very different to what one is usually exposed to in terms of classic education. It's an opportunity to really enrich one's Zionistic affiliation and affirmation. Ohrsom is unapologetically Zionistic. And at the same time, to really deepen and intensify and explore one's Jewish heritage in a way in which one's Jewish identity and one's Jewish spirituality can be really enriched and exposed in a way that was unimaginable. Some of the educators and some of the educational forums are extremely unique, with amazing speakers from around the world and different types of programs, from meditational seminars to classic yeshiva and seminary dynamics, to types of learning which is much more self-orientated in terms of a person going through their own investigative process to work on one's character, to try and come out of the gap year actually that much more self-aware and hopefully that much more empowered in terms of how to actually approach life in a real way and how to grow as a human being, as opposed to being that much more theoretically knowledgeable but not necessarily integrated. One of the most important aspects of our theoretical growth and in our process of learning is to try and create an integration between the knowledge that's acquired and the way in which that knowledge is executed and expressed on a personal and experiential level. And that really is part and parcel of the process. And we've seen that blossom on the most beautiful level with our students who have come through the process. That educational experience is diverse, as I've mentioned. It really is something that is a thread throughout the entire experience. But there are all these experiential dynamics as well. From a scuba diving course, whether it's the basic scuba diving license to advanced scuba diving, to skiing in the Hermon, to skydiving, whether it was in Croatia in a place called Zadar or in a place near Venice in Italy. It's all about experiences that are larger than life, but that also build you with all different themes and different elements behind them so that it makes it that much more better. Running the Jerusalem 10K, and so many more of these types of experiences that translate into this very high-end experience. But there's also things that you'd be very confident and proud to put on your CV, like becoming a first responder paramedic through the Magen David Adom course, or through doing an internship in your specific field of interest, so that you get a much greater impression as to what career and what orientation you'd be interested in exploring for your own personal life. So that it's not something that's just purely theoretical, but it's actually something that you'd have some degree of exposure to. We've had students that have worked shadowed in Shaare Zedek Hospital, people that have worked in high-tech companies, and lots of others. So what we've done in terms of this gap year is to try and make it diverse, but make it very much a full experience in terms of what it has on offer. And it couldn't be more bettered than if we didn't have the opportunity to have the amazing, larger-than-life, outlandish travel opportunities that we'd really love to experience. And those are things from hiking in the Himalayas. You'll be there with Sherpas, and you'll be there with our staff, medical staff and educators, trekking literally from Dharamsala in the north of India. And then you'll be able to be on elephant back in a place called Bandhavgarh in the middle of central India, where you have the highest concentration of tigers in the world. It's something that somewhat of a pilgrimage that I make every single year to accompany the program, so that I have to have better footage of tigers than I've had the year before. A tremendous experience where you might find Mowgli and Bagheera and Baloo and all those people who are written in Rudyard Kipling's original Jungle Book story, because that's where it is. So from the richness of India to the Northern Lights in Norway, where you get to see literally the most amazing spectacles that one can imagine, the aurora lights, to the Champs-Élysées in Paris, to walking in the footsteps of tragedy in Auschwitz, in Majdanek, in Treblinka. We really want this travel component to be rich, diversified, and to hit different buttons in the human being, so that when you leave the experience, you didn't just tick bucket lists, but actually you got exposure to things you never knew existed, and it enriched you in ways you never knew you could be enriched. That's the underlying principle of the gap year: to travel, to experience, and to learn. And hopefully the growth that is articulated through all these different experiences take a person to a place in which they reflect back on this year and think, wow, what if I never went on this? What if I never seized the opportunity that stood in front of me, where that rabbi from Johannesburg, all the way in a different continent, tried to encourage, hopefully inspire, and give some degree of elucidation as to this program, because it really would be, God forbid, a what if. This is something that is so spectacular. And we obviously have the testimonials and the testament of all of the experiences and the students that have gone through this to really stand testimony to what this is. So I hope you're aware of that. And we really, really hope that you decide to come on this program. Just on the most basic level, I want you to know that they're based in Jerusalem, primarily for the whole year, staying in their own apartments, trying to create a sense of independence where you feel like you're on your own, but where you have ground support. You have logistic management, you have mentors engaging you on a daily basis. So there's a beautiful rhythm and a beautiful balance, as Rabbi Evans said, between a sense of overseeing security and management and professional logistical support, but at the same time giving a person a certain degree of room and responsibility to really stand up in a developmental process and occupy a sense of personal responsibility and personal self-development. I'm going to hand over now to our director of the Gap Year, Morty Goldstein, who's been doing this for the last few years and really enabled the program through his own personal dedication to develop into something quite extraordinary. And he can give you more information as to the basic breakdown and framing of the actual program. But I hope I've articulated it in terms of the concept, in terms of the philosophy. And I just want you to know that this is a big decision for you. And I recognize that it is something that one can never take back. It's a year of one's life. But just based on our success and based on our past, I can really give a very confident sense of guarantee, God willing, that if you decide to come on this program, you will have a tremendous team behind you, and you will have tremendous experiences that stand in front of you. And as I mentioned again, I hope that I'll get to know all of you that much better, as I have with Australian parents in the past, and that we can hopefully, in 2021, go down that journey together in a way in which the education, the experiences, and the travel become part and parcel of your life. I look forward to that. And with that, I'll hand over to Morty. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for listening to me.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name, as Rabbi Bloch mentioned, is Morty Goldstein. I oversee the logistics team for the Gap Year program, and I also head up our recruitment in South Africa and Australia. And I'm very, very excited to be here this evening for you, talking about our Gap Year program. It really is an unbelievable program, and the whole drive of the program is to empower our students with real world skills and experiences, which better prepare them for life, for university, and is really just hugely empowering for all of our students. So I'm going to run you through very quickly a sample itinerary just to give you a better idea of what the program looks like. But before I do that, I also just want to mention that at the bottom of your screens, there should be a Q&A button, an option there. If you have any questions, please post them in there, and we will get to answering all the questions in as much detail as possible. So now I'm just going to dive into the itinerary. As I mentioned, it's a sample itinerary based off of previous years. It's not exactly what next year's itinerary is going to look like, but it's just to give you an idea of what the program looks like when it all comes together. February is the time that we normally arrive in Israel. We arrive at the very beginning of February and head straight up north to ski on Mount Hermon, as Rabbi Bloch mentioned. We go skiing there for a few days, and then head back down to Jerusalem for orientation, introduction to all of our various staff, settling into the apartments. We start a learning program there in Jerusalem, and the way that our learning programs are structured is that we've got periods of between 1 and 3 weeks spread out throughout the year. They total between 2 and 3 months of the program. And normally these Jewish learning programs are done in the morning with various activities and things happening in the afternoon. So you'll have learning from like 9 a.m. or 9:30 in the morning until around midday. And then in the afternoons, you do various activities, which include Segway tour, amazing race, go-karting, bowling, all kinds of various things. Sometimes it's more educational trips like tours around the old city, and various other touring in and around Jerusalem. And then we head to Eilat. In Eilat, we do a 1-star open water PADI certification, which means that basically you get to be a scuba diver with a license, which you can use pretty much anywhere in the world, and is really, really an unbelievable experience for everyone there in Eilat. As we head into March, there's some more learning. We do Sarel, which is an army volunteering program. You go to various bases and volunteer on the bases and help them out there. And then we do Yam Liyam, which is an incredible hike across Israel, and is really, really an unbelievable opportunity to explore Israel and connect in a very deep way with the land. Into April, we have got Pesach and Kibbutz, which we go to Ein HaNetziv, which is more in the north of Israel. And normally then, depending exactly on how the Pesach dates fall out, we do India, which is a combination of 2 major activities, as Rabbi Bloch mentioned. We go to a tiger safari and we do a hike through the Himalayas. And we obviously spend some time as well in New Delhi, which is really incredible. Time permitting, and what we've done in previous years is that we've done some other activities as well. So one year we went to an IPL cricket match. Another year we went to visit the Taj Mahal, and again, time permitting, we will do that next year as well. And then in May we wrap up the India trip and start MDA, which is Magen David Adom, which is the National Ambulance Service in Israel. It starts with a 10-day or 2-week first aid course, in which the students learn very basic and very fundamental skills to become first aid responders, and after which they do about 5 weeks worth of volunteering on ambulances. This is real shifts on real ambulances, real emergencies, real Israelis. In previous years, we've had students deliver babies, do CPR, respond to car accidents, really all kinds of very interesting experiences, and again, hugely empowering for the students with these very real world skills. June is the end of the MDA, the end of the Magen David Adom experience or volunteering. And then normally the end of June and beginning of July are our Ohrsom Israel trips or similar touring around Israel. Again, we visit Eilat, we go up north, we go to Tzfat, and everything else in between. Really, really an incredible opportunity. At the end of July, we do an Israel advocacy course, which we normally run through Stand With Us, which is, again, very, very empowering, particularly in the context of students returning to universities in both South Africa and Australia. It really gives students skills and knowledge and empowerment to be able to be ambassadors for Israel and to understand everything that is going on in that arena. And towards the end of July, again, we've got some learning programs and various activities which follow the same format that I mentioned previously about learning in the morning and activities in the afternoon. The month of August is an internship program, which in the past we've run through J Internship, which is the largest provider of internships in Israel. The internship program is 4 to 5 weeks, and students have been placed in really all kinds of like a diverse combination of internships. Some people have done work in hospitals, other people have done work with children or with special needs children. We've even had students do internships in think tanks and the Jerusalem SPCA, which was really amazing. And then into September, we've got the various programs and activities with Poland Prep and the Jewish high holidays, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. And then into October is the Europe trip and the end of the year and the end of year program. The Europe trip is a 2-week program, which consists of Poland for a few days, which is normally about a 4 to 5 day trip in Poland, where we travel really across Poland and do quite extensive touring and connection there. It's really a very powerful experience for all of our students, a very deep and emotional experience, and really a major highlight of the year. And the rest of the Europe trip is greatly different, or vastly different to Poland. It's much more touristy, much more fun and exciting. We traveled to another 3 or 4 countries in previous years. We've been to Norway to see the Northern Lights. We've been to Amsterdam, to Venice, to Paris, to Croatia, really to all different places across Europe. And we hope to keep adding places to the list. It's a very exciting trip. And as I said, after Europe, they return to Israel for the end of year program to pack up, say goodbye to the staff, and then return home. I'm just going to touch on now quickly the pricing, the costing for the gap year program. As you guys probably know, the gap year program, the early bird special is $19,000, which is all inclusive, includes all accommodation, all food, all activities, all program, flights, etc. It really, there's never a time in the year where our students are not allowed to be in their apartments, meaning that throughout the year, the students are based in apartments. They live in apartments in the center of Jerusalem, and these apartments are around the Shuk or Ben Yehuda area, and these apartments are their home base. And that means that the students aren't living out of a suitcase the whole year. They've actually got a home, and from this home, they go out to do all of the various trips and activities and programs that I mentioned before. And these homes are there, these apartments and homes are there available for them throughout the year. So even when there's a free weekend or a free day or whatever it happens to be, there's never a time where the students can't stay in their apartments. And if the students choose to stay in their apartments for a free weekend, we still provide them with food and everything else that they need. And so it really becomes their home there. But just back to the price, as I said, it's $19,000, the early bird special. This is paid in 2 phases. The first is a non-refundable $1,000 registration fee, which secures your spot on the program and the early bird special. And then the remaining $1,800 is paid in 10 installments of, $18,000 is paid in 10 installments of $1,800 starting on 1 January 2021. And after the early bird special, it's going to, the price is going to go to $22,000. And then you can see there's a few things that obviously aren't included in the price over there. I'm going to pass it back now to Rabbi Bloch, who's just going to just give an update on coronavirus and COVID-19. As everyone knows, this year has had everything turned on its head a little bit, and Rabbi Bloch is just going to update on what's happened this year and to discuss how it might impact next year.
Okay, I can't see. Am I on screen, Maud?
Yes, we can hear you and see you.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, as everyone knows, COVID-19 has been a tremendous challenge for everybody in the world, and we were blessed to have a tremendous support system on the ground in Israel, who worked night and day with our staff in South Africa and Australia to make sure that the program went on, and that the program went on in a way in which we were able to make sure that under the most challenging of circumstances that there was enriching experiences, and that the quality of the program was sustained and maintained. So much so that we went into, at one stage, a totally virtual capacity where the students were having online classes and where the students were doing a diverse amount of things online, from barista classes and learning to make coffee to self-defense and to doing work with personal trainers on a daily basis, so that there was a really healthy mental, physical and spiritual process that was maintained even during lockdown. They ran their own Seders, Pesach Seders, which was a tremendous challenge, but also something which really uplifted everybody in terms of a sense of empowerment and a sense of really developing themselves to that level in which they were able to do such a thing. That being said, the minute that we were able to step out of lockdown, we went straight into flat out programming on an outdoor level, back to Eilat, back to traveling in the north, and we haven't stopped for a second. We've really hit the ground running. And going forward, please God, to next year, we really hope that things will start to change based upon therapeutics, and hopefully also, God willing, a vaccine, which will be a game changer, obviously, for everything. But all that being said, our goal is for everything to go ahead as planned and for the program to go ahead as planned. If it so happens that some element of the program is not within our means to achieve because of COVID, like international travel, so at the end of the program, a recon will be done. And if there is a cost saving, that cost saving will be yours as parents and participants, not ours. We have zero intention to make profit from this. This is an idealistic organization that wants to make sure that every Jew has an opportunity to be enriched and educated in this forum, and that it will bring out the best in everybody. That's our purpose, that's our goal, that's our desire, and therefore we would never want finances to be something that acts as a barrier to a person having this opportunity and exposure. With that in mind, that's why I personally and my tremendous colleagues have spent a tremendous amount of time and effort making sure that we can fundraise for this program, so that even the costing that Mordy articulated to you is really a drop in the ocean of the genuine costs that is incurred during this year in order to make the program that larger than life, really all-encompassing, outlandish experience. So with that in mind, one needs to realize and recognize that our intentions are to make it feasible and viable, and to also make sure that we get to go to every experience in every place. So I hope that based upon the trends and based upon what is being anticipated as the progression of the medical fraternity and the world at large, we'll be looking at a program that is less affected than this year's. But when it comes to all the basic components of the program, when it comes to social distancing, and it comes to the medical concerns, we are always guided by the chief medical people in Israel and South Africa and Australia. And we take an extra conservative view in terms of how to deal with situations. And obviously this requires a dynamic approach and an adaptive approach, but it's something that we were able to achieve with tremendous success this year, I believe. And we hope that, as we mentioned, next year it won't be as much apparent and necessary to deal with. But if it is, we have the experience, we have the know-how, and we are dedicated to making sure that it works under all circumstances. So I hope that gives a clarity as to both the financial and logistical and philosophical components to how we deal with COVID-19 and with elements around it. But if there are any other questions, I'd be happy to address them. Also, in terms of the question that
Sorry, just before we jump into the Q&A, I just want to say just one or two more things. Firstly, as I said, we're going to go now into questions and answers. There's 2 questions already in the chat over there, and if you have other questions, please post them, and we'll answer them now. But secondly, just in terms of the next step from here, in a minute after the questions and answers, we're going to introduce you to some of our Australian staff who will be on the ground in Australia, in Melbourne and Sydney, to be your points of contact for any questions or anything that you wish to discuss further. They're going to send out an email tomorrow morning or in the next day or two with more information about the program and more details. The next best step, or the best next step, is for everyone to, if you're interested in the program, to have a meeting or a phone call, a discussion, just to deal with any personal questions or queries, to discuss any specific questions, and really to start the application process. We're happy to meet with people individually. We're happy to meet with people in groups, in friend groups, however you guys feel is best. But generally, meetings are the next best step to move forwards. And as I said, our staff are going to be sending out an email in the next day or two, and to set up a meeting, you can either contact us using the information which we'll show you in a few minutes at the end of the presentation, or by simply replying to that to that email that we're going to send out tomorrow.
So I'll
Bloch,
come in here, Gabby, as well. So I'm Benj. I'm from Melbourne. I'll be your contact in Melbourne. The Ohrsom Gap Year is an awesome opportunity. I'm really excited about it. And if you guys have any questions, any concerns, or anything at all, and you want to touch base with me, that's fine. I'm here to answer any questions you may have. And as Morty said, I'll let Gabby introduce herself quickly.
Hi everyone, I'm Gabi. I'm here as part of the Ohrsom team in Sydney. I have been privileged enough to join the Ohrsom Gap Year program in Israel, in and out, and it's an amazing, amazing opportunity. So I'm here in Sydney. Please feel free to email me, message me. I'm here with any questions, and I'm more than happy to help in any way that I can.
Yeah, so as Morty said, we'll be sending out an email to all of you guys in the next couple of days, which will include an information booklet, which pretty much says everything we've sort of gone over in this presentation. And again, any questions or anything you have, I'll actually put up the screen now. You have our contact details here, and we'll be your first port of call. And again, if you guys are wanting to take it to the next step, we can have a call and interview and take it from there. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. And now I think Morty will be here to answer, and Rabbi Bloch will be here to answer any questions you may have. And Evan as well.
Yeah, I think I'll jump in just for the first one. Obviously, if someone doesn't go on the Gap Year program, they are more than welcome to join any of our programs. You know, whether it be there's things in normal times, there's things happening in our centers on most nights. And obviously, you know, it's an incredible opportunity for them to create new social groups and different social groups and create, I think the main thing we've seen, create those social groups around really positive impetuses. And of course, any programs, mid-year programs, if they don't go on the Gap Year program, that's another opportunity for them, or the end-of-year programs. It's all on the table. So don't feel, you know, obviously I wouldn't miss this opportunity because it's different. It's almost a full year of incredible, as you've heard, all the incredible things that we do. So I don't think our other programs can match that or rival that, but they're definitely great opportunities as well.
Okay, so the second question was, has the travel between countries been confirmed? So in principle, as Morty said, we always go to India mid-year, just before Pesach or just after, depending upon the calendar in terms of how it works. So that's a given. And the structure with India, as I mentioned, is primarily between going to the north and hiking in the Himalaya to central India with this tiger safari, with internal trips into the cities of Delhi and doing certain other experiences like the Taj Mahal, and also going to an IPL match. We watched the test match between India and Australia also in the northern Dharamsala. It was actually the first time that I had a test cricket match in that area of the country. Excuse me. So that's a constant. And then when it comes to the end of the program in October, as Morty said, usually we go to 4 or 5 countries. Norway is always a highlight. Similarly, Poland, Amsterdam, and then we start to flip-flop between different opportunities: Venice, Paris, Croatia, all of those types of countries. And as Morty said, we're looking always to look for something new and exciting and extraordinary. Usually things that are a little bit out the box and hopefully can take it to that next level. But even when we do things that are, you know, classic like Paris, we'll go to Euro Disney and obviously do things like the Eiffel Tower, etc. But try and really change it up a bit in terms of the exposure that goes down within that framework. In terms of the early bird, so we haven't decided.
Just on that, Rabbi Bloch, on that point, maybe if you could speak. I think the question was, has everything been confirmed for next year? You know, so those trips, is that like a guarantee?
Yeah. In other words, the only thing that would stop us from not going to those specific countries would be if there was some sort of, you know, issue with regards to COVID. And then what we would do is we wouldn't use that as a stumbling block to justify not traveling. We would try and find alternative countries that would be feasible based upon that much more safe and feasible under COVID conditions. And we're even doing that now for this year. We don't want to be limited by COVID to anything that is not necessary. But in principle, those are the staples, and those are what we like to do because we have a lot of familiarity with where and what to do, both from an educational, experiential point of view and the actual logistical components. So under classic conditions, those are the places we go to, and we can take that as confirmed, and then the adaptations would only take place on the basis of some sort of COVID.
Confirmed as much as one can confirm anything in the world that we are currently living in. I think that's the...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In terms of the early bird, we've really wanted to be sensitive with regards to this because we understand that the timing of making decisions can be quite sensitive based upon current conditions, people's financial situations, etc. So we aren't giving a definitive end to the early bird yet, but we will be soon, and it will probably look around the month of October. But it's important for us to have an end to the early in order to create a core group and in order to make sure that there is a genuine traction of what's being built up in terms of people's participation, which in previous years has been very much to our benefit. Also, another element is the necessary preparation that goes into the gap year. As I've mentioned and as was mentioned, this is quite a serious undertaking logistically, and it requires us to achieve leases with various apartments in Jerusalem. And obviously, when you have a big group like we had this year, we had 49 participants, one needs to, ahead of time, make the necessary preparations, which obviously requires a sense of awareness of the size of the group and also some sort of cash flow structure attached to that. So we will be having an end to the early bird, but we're trying to be as sensitive as possible to give people the wiggle room and the sense of freedom to make a clear decision, but at the same time, give us the opportunity to get ahead of the game in terms of our preparation. Still moving on with a couple more questions that I'll attempt to answer. So then the next question was by Musab, that what can participants expect to come back to in Melbourne and Sydney after the program in terms of community and structure? Well, I think Rabbi Woodmont described that, but if I can just go into articulating that, obviously the basic centers and the educators that we have involved on a weekly basis in both Melbourne and in Sydney act as this continuity to whatever's been achieved. And as Rabbi Woodmont expressed, there's leadership that goes into that as well, and multiple additional opportunities, both in terms of international travel and in terms of Jewish enrichment. So it really enables a person to plug into a family type dynamic, which is very hands-on with unbiased, but really the best people out there in terms of being able to invest in your children and really uplift them in a healthy and, as Rabbi Woodmont said, balanced way, so that there is this sense of continued growth and continued support back in Australia. That's in a nutshell what you can expect to have, but really I'm underselling it based upon really what can occur based upon Ohrsom in terms of its opportunities and programming that actually one can experience once one is back in Australia.
Well, I'll actually butt in here. Because I've experienced actually being involved in the organisation. So I first got involved in Ohrsom in 2017. I went on their mid-year Israel trip, and since then there's been this amazing community built around Ohrsom, to the point where Thursday, pre-COVID obviously, Thursday nights would have chills at the centre, would sit and watch the footy. And the rabbis are there for any questions we have. We have awesome sessions with them, personal growth sessions. And, Ohrsom's really such an amazing community, and it's honestly changed my life. And that's part of the reason I'm here. I'm here representing them for the gap year, because I'm really passionate about the organisation. I'm really passionate about what they have to offer. And I just want you guys to all experience the same thing that I'm experiencing, really uplifting stuff, sorry. So yeah, for sure, Ohrsom is an amazing community to come back to. And there's just endless opportunities. Like since 2017, I've been to Israel twice. They've sent me to New York. They've sent me to Spain on a leadership program. So it's really endless. And now Ohrsom is a big part of my life, and I couldn't be thankful enough to the organisation. So yeah.
Thanks, Deej. In terms of exercise, you do have the opportunity to go to a gym every single day. We've had participants in the past that have had the opportunity to go to gyms. Obviously, a person has his own decision making as to how and what one does at gym. Sometimes the apartments have had gyms internally, and other times people have signed up and made their own contracts with gyms. But the time structure of the program allows for people to do daily exercise. We encourage it and to some extent facilitate, especially when it comes to training for the Jerusalem 10K or the marathon or the half marathon, depending upon one's level of fitness and interest. And when it comes to other elements, in terms of the intensity of the program, there was another question that came up. So the program is very action-packed and content-filled, but there is an opportunity for a person to have their sense of freedom. As Morty mentioned, even when it comes to the learning framework of the program, which is only a component, but we try and keep a sense of diversified intensity. So you'll learn half day, and then the rest of the day will be activities based. But then you have the whole evening to yourself, and obviously we expect a sense of maturity and responsibility in terms of people not having perpetual late evenings, and going out too hard and partying too much, because obviously that lands up being detrimental to the next day and the onward development process that we've really built into the program. But there certainly are free weekends and free periods of time where one would have an opportunity to definitely express oneself outside of the forum. But there's never a stage where a person is pushed into a dynamic in which they have to fend for themselves. As I think Mordy articulated, every single meal of the entire program is overseen, whether it's Saturday night or whether it's a free Shabbos. There's never a situation where it's fend for yourself and do things on your own. We really wanted to make it a program which a person develops a sense of independence and has the opportunity to step out of that bubble. But at the same time, if one needs to rely on us and one needs the internal servicing, we're always there for you. So we hopefully bridged that gap and created a balance in that regard. It is an intense program in principle, but it's a program which does have enough time, we believe, for doing one's own thing outside of it, that one really feels that it kind of accommodated both components. Whereas, it isn't a program where there's a sense of dead time, where there's a sense of trying to just fill it with various activities which aren't beneficial or which aren't content productive. That certainly isn't what it is. So I hope that answers that question in terms of...
Just on the question, under which of the three conditions has the program been accepted to leave Australia? Not 100% sure what you're referring to, but we're part of what's called MASA. MASA is an umbrella organization where it houses all of the different programs that go to Israel. And for example, some students who might have left the gap year programs currently in Israel and come back to Australia, they were able to go back to Israel because they're part of the MASA program. So I'm not exactly sure, which government rules that falls under, but it's definitely one of the exceptions that are allowed to actually to go leave Australia and go back to Israel. Because right now, it's definitely not an easy thing to do from Australia. You can't just, pick up and go to Israel unless you have certain exceptional circumstances. But MASA is one of those. Yeah.
And just in terms of the question regarding India, in terms of that it has a significant issue at the moment with COVID, absolutely. In other words, the bottom line is this. If from an international health point of view, traveling to India is prohibitive, we will find alternatives that are more in keeping with the conservative approach that we'll have with regards to travel. What we won't do is not travel if we are able to travel. And we'll try and find something which is as outlandish and as exciting as something with regards to India, like something in the Far East, etc., which has been on our radar irrespective. So we want to find that larger than life kind of differentiator in terms of an experience. India is certainly our first choice. And similar, as I mentioned, when it comes to the European destinations that were mentioned, those are also our first choice. If it so happens that they become not feasible based upon COVID conditions, alternatives will be found if possible, and that is certainly what we intend to do. If a person signs up, can they pull out? The answer is yes, but there is a need for a person to forfeit their deposit. The deposit is non-refundable once you are accepted onto the program. So the program requires a person to pay this deposit, which was mentioned, and then a person is enrolled. If a person who needs to go through interviewing process, if they're accepted, then you're in. And then the deposit is standing for you being enrolled. If a person is not able to join based upon the interviewing process, so then obviously a person will be immediately refunded. So that's the principle with regards to that. But otherwise, obviously a person's not bound by the program until that they've committed and they really want to on the basis of their deposit. Any questions? Other questions? Have a look.
Rabbi Bloch, there's just one or two questions there in the chat. I don't know if you can see the chat there, but you answered the question about how intense the program is and free time. But just the program runs from February until November, so it's about 9.5, 10 months of the program, and of that, the majority of the time is spent in Israel, and about 5 or so weeks are spent outside of Israel, in Europe and in India, about 2.5 weeks in each. So that I hope answers the questions in the chat. And Rabbi Bloch, there's one or two questions about the maximum number of students and stuff in the Q&A.
So the maximum number of students is we don't have a specific maximum at this stage. This year we took 49 students, and we hope to take more. We're obviously aware of the fact that under COVID conditions, it's more challenging, and obviously people have limitations in terms of their wherewithal in terms of sending students on programs. But we would love everybody to go. The only limitations will be the early bird special, and it is something that's real. In the past, people have woken up too late, and unfortunately we weren't able to do anything about it, but they came nonetheless, and rightly so. But in terms of capacity, we'd like to think that we have the wherewithal to service the necessary demand, and we have a lot of staff on the ground in Israel to be able to make the experience extremely personal, and it's a service that is dedicated to making sure that if the program scales, we're able to continue to fulfill the necessary criteria of what we consider to be the optimal structure of our program, which is having a mentor couple that oversee each apartment, and to make sure that there's a sense of personal attentiveness and care that is experienced throughout the program, over and above all the different experiences that are on offer. So we're not so nervous about the scaling. We used to, as Rabbi Woodman said, we used to taking programs overseas north of 100, even north of 200 at a time. So we're experienced in terms of high number groups. But as I mentioned, at no stage do we want that to translate into an experience which is diluted in terms of the offering of personnel and the direction and the level of engagement that we have based upon our staff and our experiences. Was there another question? One person asked if how much does the program cost? It costs $19,000, early bird special. That's all in. That's all your traveling. That's all your flights. It's your local transportation. You get Rav Covs, so you get to go on the buses in Israel, and you get to be able to travel internally for free. It covers all your food and accommodation. We have a on the ground support team of staff, and we have an on the ground support team of chefs that make sure that every meal is high level and good, and it's all inclusive, and you won't go hungry, and hopefully you'll really feel that it's a really high level experience in all regards. The deposit is $1,000. As far as I'm aware, it's $1,000, and that's the early bird deposit, USD. Anything else? Are there any more in the chat?
If there are no more questions, I don't see any more questions, so I think we can wrap it up there. If you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to one of, sorry, I just see coming up in the chat, 19,000 US dollars. It's US dollars, not Australian dollars. But as I was saying, if you have any further questions or anything that you'd like to discuss, please feel free to reach out to either myself or one of our staff in Australia. All of our contact information is there on the screen, as you can see. As I mentioned before, we're going to be sending out an email with an information booklet and some more details. And really, the next best step, or the best next step, is to arrange a meeting for either students and parents, or just students or just parents, to discuss it all properly, or to come in for an interview. And the best way to arrange that is replying to the email that you'll get. And the last thing that I just want to add is that if you have friends, or you know of people who are interested in the Gap Year program but were unable to attend this information evening, firstly, you can forward them the email that you're going to be getting. Secondly, we're going to have another information evening in a few weeks' time. There's also the Massa information evening in a few weeks' time, and we are always available to speak to anyone. So if anyone else, as I said, that is interested in the Gap Year or wants to find out more information but wasn't able to join us this evening, please tell them to reach out to us, or forward them our contact information or the email, and we're happy to answer any further questions, or anything else that someone else would like to discuss. Thank you all so much for joining us, and we're really looking forward to meeting you all properly, and to an incredible year next year. Everybody.
Good evening.